Garja. I just wanted to do a quick video. I'll probably post it on the YouTube as Mardra Teanga Dev Log 1 or something. But this is hopefully just one unedited video that I just talk through, unscripted, everything. I've been meaning to do an update for a while. This is going to be around Sionnach, Madra Teanga, and basically kind of from a technical point of view. So yeah, I kind of wanted to get to the stage that I can just turn on the camera and talk and then post, so I don't think too much about it. I don't use OBS on this because I have a Windows manager called Sway set up here on this, which means OBS wasn't working, so I have just some scripts to kind of record and for the audio too, and then the webcam up in the corner. I think I'll just go through some websites first to kind of talk broadly about stuff. So yeah, I was playing around this. I was actually made an effort to record this earlier on, and I didn't get far. I kind of got lost in the sauce. So maybe I might start at the beginning. So from my GitHub log, I pushed this up to my website 11 months ago. So, which means I've been working on this for a year now, which is interesting. This is the original prototype, Sionnach. I just took a picture online from the Book of Kells, and this is written in a language called Haskell, in a framework called Reflex FRP, which is this one. Oh, I didn't know that we both had that. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, I've always used that. I used to always use that in my websites. I don't know. For some I saw it, I thought it was cool. It's like a JavaScript script in the background that just creates this. You know, it's kind of like a nice thing for a website because it's like networks and stuff. This website built with Haskell and HTMX and Docker. You can see I don't have the certs done. I haven't updated it in over a year. So I guess why Haskell? I started off with embedded C, Arduinos, and like doing microcontrollers. I was doing my undergrad in physics, and from there I switched to Python because Python is all the rage. I worked for a bit in Python, and then I was building a real-time video system. So it was based off of research at MIT, and it was using head movement to track your heart rate. So as I stand here, this paper said that every time my heart beats, it goes through your body, but it goes up, and because your head is on like a pivot, every time it goes up, the tonian fluidics make your head bob very slightly. You can't see it with the human eye, but with a camera you can attach trackers and you can track it, and then you can use signal processing and Fourier transform and all these algorithms to extract out that signal, and that gives you a heart rate. So I was building this, and in Python it's single threaded, so as you can imagine it wasn't getting great performance. I was using a library called OpenCV, which had a Python interface. So that was originally written in C++, so I made the logical jump to C++, especially after my background in C, and I absolutely love C++. I've bought every book imaginable on the topic. I've gone to the conferences. I really love C++, and even now, actually, every few weeks I try to think of a project I can do in C++ just to get back into it. I've been short on time, but if I had it, I probably would just do it for fun. And I worked for a time in C++, and I worked on some really cool projects and stuff. But you can't really build servers in C++. Well, not like, like something like this, like a website. You can't build apps in C++ or other stuff. And most of the time, they're working with people or your friends, and they're doing stuff, and you're working on projects, and you want to build prototypes. You kind of want to have an app or a website because people don't really care if you have a command line script. They want to see it working, like the UI and stuff. So I was always kind of looking for that, like how these collection of languages, and I can jump between, you know, using Angular and Swift and Kotlin, and every time you're in a project, you just pick the language that works for it, and then you end up just, you know, reading the references, copying, pasting. You're constantly just learning, and having a core language that you can use everywhere is a huge advantage, I think. So I was doing like C++ for performance, and then I was doing like Python and then Perl for scripting, and then I was doing, you know, various front-end frameworks. So I did a lot of React, and then Angular, and then Vue and stuff. And now actually I use Svelte for all my websites. But I wanted to have just one language for everything. So this was this effort, right? It's Haskell, HTMX, and you can just do it everywhere, sit down and write the code. Haskell also has a mobile framework, Reflex FRP. FRP stands for Functional Reactive Programming, which is really cool. It means like the UI is safe. It can't be in a breaking state and stuff. Very type safe. The real reason I chose it is because it compiled to Android, web, and I thought iOS. And I was working in it for a year. I even was working full time, and I was working on a paid open source project role for a decentralized storage system. But then I built this app. So, you know, I was learning Irish, and you can tell I was interested in the irregular verbs and building fluency with them. And then I bought a MacBook, and realized then you can't build Reflex FRP apps for the new Apple Silicon, the ARM architecture, only for the old Intel. And this project here, I looked at the repo earlier on today. They haven't made updates in 4 months, but even before that, I don't think they're too invested in it. I think this was very like popular, maybe 2020 or something, but it seems like they're not really working on it anymore. At least I don't see any way to build iOS apps with it, which is, as you can imagine, like a lot of people use iPhones, so you kind of want to have your app work for them too. Bit of a deal breaker. It was a bit heartbreaking, to be honest with you. I'd spent a year, I'd really gotten to love it, and then I had to kind of just put it away and switch to the mainstream alternative. With apps, in the beginning I wrote them in Java and Objective-C for iOS, and then that switched, upgraded to Kotlin, and then Swift for iOS. So you're writing the code twice in languages you only use on the app. And then Flutter was the great promise from Google, so they're the guys behind Android, so they have the inside scoop. They also have the resources to do it, so they basically built the whole framework and for Apple and iOS. And unlike if you do it in JavaScript and compile it down, it becomes like a hybrid app. Hybrid apps don't have good performance, they don't look great, it's all kinds of issues. You're kind of paying a tax straight away just for using them. And then I guess having one code base is the reward. But with Flutter, you write it in Dart and it works on iOS, Android, and web, and also on desktop, although I haven't built too many desktop apps. Web kind of makes the most sense if you're going to use desktop. So yeah, so like the reason I didn't want to use Flutter is because it's very verbose. It takes a lot of code, boilerplate, noise to kind of get anything done. So what that results in is you're just constantly Googling documentation and copying and pasting patterns, and you know, now if you look at any of their streams, they're just using LLMs to do it for them. Even the Flutter team, they post, I watched one recently where they're making a language app, and he just opened up his coding agent and told him to build an app for him, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, so trying to use this didn't work, switched to Flutter. I was building other apps at the time too. So this was the app. This is in Haskell FRP, and yeah, you can kind of see how it works. So you can have a listen. So I need to type in here. See, and then like, is it Bertless? It's not. It's a English sentence with Irish words. Erasmus. Yeah, what? Touch the bus. No, good minute. I often do. I don't know why, but when I'm trying to talk about stuff and show it off, and I'm trying to do the Irish, my brain just completely freezes up. And I wonder, is that something I could work on? And is it something to do with like, true fluency? That if I had true fluency, I could do that. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So yeah, this was the first app, and from there built the one in Flutter, which is now here, and yeah, this is like, I was, even before the break, Christmas, I was changing this. So if I go to here, I put in these new modes. So this is the classic mode, which is on currently and enabled by default and has the most work gone into it. So, and then this new one, the unified one, which has everything in it, but the least tested, so probably the most bugs. And then with this one, you can, with unified, you can enable all of the 3 annotations. So part of speech, so what the word is it like proper noun, is it a verb, what is it? So you can see the structure of the sentence. The pronunciation, which is just my best guess at how to spell something in English. All kinds of issues around spelling Irish words with English, in English, and dialects and stuff. I wanted to remove it, but a lot of people really liked it. So, and I think some people, if they've had problems or issues with hearing and stuff, be able to see it is helpful. It is for learners too. It's not like a definitive thing, but yeah, a lot of the bugs reported are about this. And then mutations. This image here doesn't show you anything. I need to update that. Mutations is lenition, or any changing of the word because of the context. It would show those changes, like the H's, for example, in green beforehand, so you can kind of see, especially with the part of speech, you can see how the sentence is being changed by the context. And then at the bottom here, I put in 3 different modes. So like letter mode is you get stopped in every mistake, letter-wise. Word mode is you don't progress from the word unless you finish the word correctly. And then sentence mode is you just do the whole thing and it will show you what you got wrong. Sentence mode has the most issues with it because it's it's a bit of a radical departure from the code architecture and stuff. But it should work. And on the dialects, currently this month we are, we got all the courses proofread. The irregular verbs course needs to be changed, updated, removed a lot of the verticals, like the using English idioms but with Irish words type of stuff. And then we are currently getting each of the courses done in each of the major dialects by professional freelancers. So we have all of that text, and then we are getting, and we put out a call for everybody to submit audio, and we're also been approaching freelancers and other people to pay for professional audio in the major dialects. So yeah, that's what's going on this week. Hopefully by the end of the month you start to see that. Yeah, so like you can see here what's a verb? common noun and this type of stuff, and then underneath it how it's pronounced, and then you can have a listen, and then you can, if you want to see what grammar is present, personal pronouns, articles, and you can look at the vocabulary, and if you click this it will give you the ghost text to type over it. This is one of the best ways to, if you get stuck, and then go to mistake. Oh sorry, I meant to click the other button. Where's that? Oh, just the clove. So first of all, you can hear them in each of the dialects, and then you can go and view here, and the idea here is to have a kind of a root, and then all the variations and the meaning. So I'll show you the JSON of how this is structured, and that JSON will be going on the open source repo soon. Kind of just waiting for the proofreading to be done and all of that stuff. Because once we put it onto the open source, we'll have it on the Sionnach repo and then the other one, so any changes have to be done on both. So it just makes sense to wait this month while we're getting all of the fixes in to put it up. So so then this is the app, and as you can see, we started off from this, and the idea was quite simple. You can kind of see where I was going, and then I have the idea of having these trees, and I literally just used Google Gemini, which you can tell by the little diamond, to generate these images last year. So like the prompt was Bucket Kel's oak tree, and I had all these kind of sources of this type of art style. And I'm not sure this is an oak tree, but the metaphor being, the more that you do it, the more that you're growing your knowledge, and you're planting a forest and stuff, and that's a motif that's throughout the app. But we went from this to this, and like you can see, there's no unused space. It's incredibly complicated, and I guess the question is that actually helping the learner, or is it just because over the summer it was just this and this and this and this and this, trying to cover everything, different features and stuff. I think, a lot of stuff can be done to make this cleaner, maybe different types of exercises and stuff. And a lot of this stuff was added in to try and help with the difficulty, and then we put in the whole JSON structure and connecting. I up late a lot of nights doing that, and that was a lot of work because we have a JSON file for the vocabulary, for the grammar, for the patterns, for the lessons, and then each of those has to be connected to each other. It wasn't done in a database or anything like that, so it was just me going in and changing the files. And I wrote a lot of scripts in Python and stuff to try and fix it, but it became a mess. But I don't know, the idea here was that you could come in and you could basically have a really simple interface, and then you could, that's because I have enabled the annotations, so you could come in and you could have a very simple interface, and then depending on what you're trying to do or what's going on, you could upgrade it, you could change it to suit you. And then from there also we wanted to put in something where you could, there's still in the invitation view, you can see the H here. And the idea was that for the most part maybe you're at this level and you're working, but if you get stuck, you have on hand the ability to jump down and explore the concepts. Like, oh, why is this mutated? And you go here and you click on the initial lesson, and you're like, you try to get a quick reminder to jog your memory, and you're like, maybe you might go and test yourself, and then you can do the whole lesson if you want. And using, and even with as annoying as this is for you, for me jumping around backwards and forwards, when you're debugging, it's even worse. So yeah, if I go back to that lesson, the meditation and lesson, at the bottom we had like connections, and the idea was you could just keep going and like jumping around and like your heart's desire, jump in and learn stuff in plain English, the why of it all, and that would make it help it stick a bit better. But it's probably really confusing, and we could probably do something about that. Before this break, before Christmas, I'm kind of looking into a lot more like streamlined stuff, and like, you know, even stuff like word games like Hangman and Boggle and word searches and stuff. At the moment we have that written one I just showed you. We have the listening one, which is just the text hidden, so you're supposed to use your ears basically. And these are not mandatory because, you know, maybe somebody doesn't have access, can't use the listening one. And then the speech one was just simply you listen to yourself speak, and when you're happy you move on. Yeah, so that's kind of the current state of the app, and we did these two, and then this one was written but hasn't been released because I need to get it proofread, need to get the different dialects done. A lot of people reported, I think people assume because you select your dialect that the text is also, but it was just me writing the courses, so I could just do what I knew, but I couldn't do Ulster, for example. And then we're fixing that, so that goes into daily conversations. And then going forward, each will be proofread, each will have the audio for each dialect, and yeah, we just keep going like this. And each of those courses will be released in the open source project. So, so yeah, a lot going on, and all that's kind of being paid for by the donations and stuff. That's where all of the spending is going. That's sort of server hosting. Yeah, and then I think you can see my admin tools there. And for the recent release, I added in this request for people to come forward to help with the audio. So we're currently hunting for professional speakers. The native speakers I spoke to tell me that they don't speak clearly enough, and that I should talk to somebody with a background in education, you know, maybe has a master's or something. And then people with a background in education tell me they're not native speakers, so like chicken and egg, I suppose, or trying to find somebody. And then we're also asking for the community. I'll also contribute my audio. Not that anybody asked for it, but yeah, I think ideally getting loads of audio is better than getting just one perfect audio. I don't think we will get one perfect audio. I think we can do better, but having a lot of audio is much better. It's much more realistic. You know, if you can hear more, you can kind of learn to understand it. I read once that before Radio na Gaeltachta in Ireland, that the three dialects didn't really understand each other. It's only when they started hearing other people speak from other dialects they kind of they understood then. Well, I've also heard from a lot of native speakers that they don't understand on Caijan, that people who learn it in schools and stuff, and vice versa. So we probably will offer just at least the three main dialects, and then on Caijan just to kind of give 4 so people can kind of jump around and see. But yeah, you can kind of see the app is in beta. It won't be able to leave beta until we have all of the text done properly, all of the audio stuff. And even then, I would say there's a lot of work to be done on the design, because this interface here has a lot in it, but it could really do with being streamlined, and I don't know, maybe some research or testing done or something, just to see what is the best way to learn Irish. And I think it should work when you're like so tired and you're maybe sitting in front of TV and you kind of have 10-20 minutes and you don't have the mental energy to focus. You should be able to still learn then, make progress, but equally if you're like locked in and you're full of energy, you should be able to make progress So yeah, I think a lot could be done around this, and that's the idea of version 2, Madra Teanga. So with this one, I don't think massive changes will be made, just with the content, and the content will be made available in the open source project. But the course content will be kind of rolled out as it comes here also. So yeah, that's Sionnach. And let me just go back to the website and go through what I have here. This is the one that was started last year with this, and I thought maybe a few people might use it. I posted on TikTok about, I'm pretty sure it's this one, I must look at the video again, or maybe it was this one, and at that stage I had all of 300 views in my videos, which I was delighted with, by the way. And then this one got like 50,000, the third video on TikTok, and then all of a sudden people were coming in, and they were, though they weren't sticking around for long, but there was a lot of people signing up. So from there it was just like a crazy summer of writing code and adding features and trying to get people to stick around. I don't know if I have to cut this out. I can't see behind this either. I was hoping to show you the stats, but maybe it's best I can't. So at the moment there's about, I think it's getting close to 11,000 to 12,000 people have signed up on the app. I think yesterday it was like 300 people are signed in. At its peak, some days there was like 1,000 people on it. This is still in beta, so you can't get it in the app stores. It's awkward to get it and stuff, and you see it, like there's some clunkiness, and it's still under development. That's still a lot of people though, I think. And in the beginning people were just leaving. Now it's on average 30 minutes a session, compared to the industry average, which is 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes for a Duolingo. 30 minutes is crazy, especially for, you know, I showed you the interface and how much work has to be done and how it's under development. It's a lot. I should probably remove the legacy from here, but like my point is that Sionnach beta is something that started here, and I tried my best to do as much as I could last year while juggling jobs. Absolutely, yeah, it was crazy. Sometimes I think back to it and I wonder how I managed to do it. And the future is kind of more Madra Teanga. So going through the website, these are the screenshots and then the features and stuff. I didn't know about this. Is this just my browser, or is this actually a bug? That's irritating. I'll check that out. And you can kind of see this was the trend, and we have the jumps. These two here are actually posts by Dara on his TikTok. When he posted it, it skyrocketed. But I don't know if you can see here, like this is like, starts off, and I think the TikTok I posted was around here somewhere, July maybe, first 1,000 users and stuff, or maybe it was late July. But I don't know if you can see how this was just increasing. So this is kind of when October to kind of start a new job, and I'm trying to juggle this job. I also have commitments, and I built an app for our local football organisation, and yeah, I'm just awake and coding. So this was a crazy period, and then around November the job didn't really work out, and I had to kind of scramble to like land some contracts and stuff to, you know, keep the wolf away from the door. And it's gone up, so the pause came in, I think, just in time. And then when this was happening too, like there was no formal organization, there was no registered company, there was no, it was just, you know, it was my Firebase account, my Apple and Android accounts, my Patreon account, all personal accounts. So, you know, I had to kind of do my taxes at the end of the year, and I had to include that in it. So yeah, and then at the same time too, I mentioned too, like we didn't have the text for each dialect. We didn't have the audio for each dialect, so it's not something I could do because I was doing all the content and the coding. And then working with freelancers, if I'm paying freelancers for my personal accounts, it's just, it can be done, it's just awkward, right? So we got to the stage, like when I stopped, put the break in, it just needed to be kind of put on steady foundations. And, you know, it's going from strength to strength, and people are using it, and you can kind of see the trajectory, but we needed to make the move. So made the move to, there was 3 of us at this stage. Some had come and gone, but it was 3 people stuck around, including myself. And it's myself, Dara, and Bunny, and Dara and Bunny doing all the art stuff, and Dara promoting it, and Bunny managing the servers and stuff. So the 3 of us, we had talked about doing a limited company, and we talked about doing, like, to do a non-profit in Ireland would, you can imagine, just be a lot of work over a limited company. Even doing a limited company is a lot of work, and they both have their own personal companies at the moment. So it's like the project's making a bit of money. It's like a few €100, but it's not enough to even cover a salary. So like setting up a whole limited company and doing all the paperwork and stuff, it's not a work, right? So Madra Teanga, and we wanted to do open source because I had released the Pubble Sionnach before, which was like a snapshot of the app, and the idea was to get people to get familiar with the architecture, because people are coming, and I was doing calls and I was talking to people at length, and then I'd never see them again, and it was a lot of, you know, like, not being hard on them because they were coming in and they didn't know anything about it, and then they come in and see the code, and it's like, what am I supposed to do here? And then as the summer was going on, I was adding in more and more structure to the code to kind of like, you know, if you have on some days 1,000 people on the app, you want to kind of build a code so there's no bugs coming in, and it's just me writing the code. So maybe like a few other people, but I have to kind of take the code that exists, write the tests, or test it myself, and then I did a release on iOS, Android, and web, and I'm doing this, and then, you know, getting ready for work in the morning. So it's a lot going on. So trying to put into the code structure so that more and more bugs are caught, and that's like putting in compile stages where like code is generated, and then making the code immutable, and doing all of this stuff. So I set up the Pubble Sionnach that had all this information in it. Like it had a kind of a basic app with all of this, and people started doing it, and some people made some really good contributions. And if you see the offline mode, which is there to show if you're offline and something doesn't work, it's probably because of your internet connection. But that was done by Tom Tim, the user who did it on Pubble Sionnach, and then I implemented the idea in the Sionnach code base. So I think the open source way showed that it would work. It was just a case of doing it well. And I want to show the code and talk about it. So I might just finish showing this. This is Madra Teanga. It's the kind of like what we set up for all this stuff. Sionnach, as you can imagine, is taken. There's no .com. We can't register. This one here, we have the .com. We can like get the accounts, the social accounts and stuff. Sionnach was just a name I picked at random because I like foxes. And you can read here about everything on the app. With this, we joined Open Collective, which is exactly set up for people like us. They're our fiscal host. They manage all of our taxes and admin and stuff. They make us a non-profit, and we just have to promise to be a non-profit. So every donation is given to us as a donation. There's no transaction going on. We can give gifts and stuff. We can like give rewards, but we can't make transactions with people. That's like a legal definition. And this means that the app is free and ad free. And we kind of wanted to have it that any donations coming into the app was directly going back into the app. So paying for content, paying for better apps and stuff. And as the app grows, this should snowball, right? So this is done recently, and at the end of this month I will move all of the money donated to Patreon across into Madra Teanga. And then that's just this month. I can do that once. They told me I can do it once, because if I do it recurringly, it gets complicated tax-wise. So then beyond that, all the Patreon donations will just be legally to me, and then I use that then for the app. So hosting fees and whatever else. With this, we also get a public ledger. So all of the finances are public. So I'll create invoices for like the server fees, create invoices for like work done, and when I submit that, someone else in the team has to approve it. So yeah, that's, and anybody can submit invoices for work done on the app. So this is perfect, right? For us, we don't have to stress over the admin and everything else, and it kind of makes it free and available and stuff. And then with that, wants to do the open source. So I'm not going to be able to get here easily. The best way to do this, because this image up here, I can't move it, and it's blocking it, but I can click here. And this is code. So we use this license, which is called copyleft. What this means is you as an individual can come along and use this repo, and at the moment it's just a basic app, but later on it will be all the content, all the lesson content, everything else. Some of the audio, not all of the audio, that's a licensing thing. And you can build your app with it and stuff, and you can even build a for-profit company if you wish. But if you go in here and you add features, or you make improvements, you need to come back here and make a pull request and give it back to the community. This means that this app, no matter what happens with it, will always be available to the public. So if you're working on it, the code is always available here. And you can go and build your own company with it, you can go and do whatever you want, but you need to keep, any changes made to the code need to be given back. And the reason that they invented this license is because companies were coming along and they are looking at, say something like the Linux kernel. They're like, that looks brilliant, I'm going to take that and I'm going to get my team of 1,000 engineers to start there and build onto it, and then I'm going to put a big old price tag on it. One example is Apple. Apple took BSD, which is an open source kernel, is an open source operating system like Linux, and they took that and they built their Mac OS on top of it. And I'm sure, actually, I don't know what the dynamics are. I do think they might give back. I'm not sure. But this idea of this license is to stop that, is to stop people coming along and just taking it and pumping resources into it to like make a better version. Because if you spent a few years building up this as volunteers, you want it to be available to the community, and then someone comes along and makes a better version with money on top of it and charges for it, it kind of undermines the whole project. Although BSD is still used a lot and it's a great operating system. So that's why we set this up. And then with the audio, I said some of it will put in, like I'll put my audio into it for people to use. We'll use a license that is very generous to the creator, and we leave the copyright with the speaker. So if you're a speaker, you own the copyright. That's your audio. You give us the right to use it. You might let us use it in the open source project. You might let other people use it, but it's yours. And that means that if someone came along and they're like, "That's great audio, can we have it?" And we'd be like, "No, you need to go talk to the person who created it." And I think that's important, very important. So yeah, that's this code, and I'm going now to, I think, hop into the code and kind of just talk generally about it. Let me just clear. So I think what I will do is I'll go to Sionnach, and I will go to lib in Sionnach, and I'll use a thing called clock, which counts the lines of code. Yeah, like you can see, 75,000 lines of code in this project. So that's 75,000 lines of code written since what, May of last year, April, May last year. This was 50,000 lines of code a few months ago. Was it before Christmas? So this has actually jumped up 50% in the last month or two. And I'll show you why. It's because of how verbose the language is. And you know, like, it's not that I by hand wrote 75,000 lines of code. It's that a lot of code was, for me anyway, I copy and paste from the docs and other stuff, or patterns, or reuse patterns and stuff. A lot of it's generated. A lot of it was LLM generated through necessity, which was, I had to go rewrite myself, which was a pain, absolute pain. And then yeah, it's just not good. So the way I had this structured, and I've refactored this, I think 3 times fully, and loads of smaller refactors, but the way I did it in the end was we have a main, and we have our team, and we have Firebase, and then the app. The app is just to keep this simple, like Firebase, this initialization, all that kind of stuff. The complexity gets moved to app. You can see, like, it's just, and this is like, this isn't even the worst of it. And like, this app doesn't have social media social logins, or a lot of other features other apps I built have. So, you know, even with that, it's what's the word? It bloats. These are tools that plugins we use to generate like different fonts and stuff. There's not really much going on. Interestingly, this Mead TTF is Mead FLF is a font I used here in this prototype. I'm from County Mead. I quite liked it, and no, it isn't this one. I think it's in the website, and I used it. I really liked it, but people complained about it. It's like this. People really complained about it being unreadable and stuff, and I actually replaced it. But when I replaced it, I was lazy, and I just renamed the file. So, oh sorry, it's actually not Mead FLF. It's actually a different font that's been named this, which is a little tidbit. And yeah, and then we have the features, the core features, and we have like you can kind of see how this evolved. We have course navigation, but we have, I think it's lessons. Yeah, lesson here was like the original irregular verb, and then this got updated to new lessons, which was the new features for Christmas, and then eventually irregular verbs got updated to use this. And then this one has the way I broke it down is, so I use freezed for the model, for the data. Freezed is a Flutter Dart package, and it generates code from code. So what this does is it takes a small amount of code and it makes safer code from it. It makes immutable code from it. And so this is what I have here. This is the data structure for the axe. And then, like, you know, I come in here and write this, and then try and document it as best I can and fix it and stuff. So then you actually see me like trying to like put notes here for myself in the future, because from this we get this generated code, and this is to make it safe and stuff. So this is all, every time I run the compile, this gets generated. So 620, and then also this one too. And then we also have here JSON annotated, which helps with the reading in and out from JSON files. So I write this code gets generated, and then a bug happens, and the bug gets reported in here, and then I have to go and figure out how we got from here to here, and is that bug something I did here, or is it because I set it up wrong? Is it because it didn't compile right? It's an extra step. It's a real pain. Like, you're just removed from what's going on. So yeah, so in the beginning, 56 lines of code. It sounds pretty good. And then the way I set it up is for the data, we have model. Think of this like a cookie cutter, like a shape. I'm actually imagining it like those old Play-Doh sets with when you pull the thing down and it generates a shape. This is the shape, and set up this, and then we have the repository, and the repository is the boundary of the app, input output. It's like at the edge, and the idea is with the repository that in here we put all of the logic and all of the stuff for anything outside of the app. So if we're talking to Firebase or a server or something else, we do it here. And the idea is, and this is also, we have generated code from here. And the idea is that here we pull in the code and we immediately use the model and we say, here's the data, and does it fit? If it fits, great, carry on. If it doesn't fit, then handle that. That's a mistake, something wrong. We need to like say, oh, that is broken, and do that right at the start. Put the logic at the start, at the interface. So if it's good, carry on. If it's not, 404, it's broken, go no further. Which stops a lot of bugs later on in the app. So it's trying to sanitize it early on. And then from here, again, like you're writing the code here, and then you're like typing out stuff, and you're trying to figure it all out. And then like you're trying to put in like some notes, maybe I can name the variables better and stuff. And then you come down here and it generates all of this. Do not modify by hand. This is by the generator. So this isn't that bad. But if there's a bug in here, you have to kind of trace it back to here, and you're just removed from it. I think this stuff here, you can see this is when, if you remember before Christmas, if you used the app, a release broke all of the progression, and that was in here. And the thing is, if someone uses this code and it's broken and it mistakenly updates data in the database, that's lost. There's nothing we can do about it. It's very difficult to fix it, right? So yeah. And then from the repository we have the provider, which is RiverPod 2.0, which is a Flutter state system. And again, we have generators to generate code from this. So this is basically like we set up these functions that anywhere in the app we want to use data, like hey, get that data, use it here, or hey, update that data, or whatever. This is how we set it up. You think this is your create, read, update, and delete functions. This is the name of all the different courses and stuff. And then again, from here we generate this code. So you can see how it bloats. And you can notice architecture is quite robust, it's quite simple, and it actually cuts down a lot of boilerplate and stuff and makes the code more robust. You can see the complexity going up as we're fighting the language, trying to like make it do more than it can do. So that's the model, and that's the pattern through all of it. We have the model, which describes the shape of the data. We have the repository, which is the I/O, the input output of the data, getting in and out of the app, and then we have the provider, which is providing the data to the app. Then we have the actual interfaces, the UI, and the way this is broken down is we have screens and we have widgets, and then sometimes we have controllers. Controllers are like the more complicated logic, and so then screens are the main ones. So this is like the lesson screen. This is like the main one. You can see by the number of imports how much is going on here, and this is like from refactoring, trying to break this stuff down into more logical parts, separation of concerns, and trying to like make it clean and stuff. But I'm pretty sure this is probably breaking it's 500 lines. I'll try to keep everything below 500 if I can, because to-dos and everything to be done in here. But you can see by like the code, it's not like logic. It's not like it's making references to data. It's like boilerplate. It's declarative stuff. So you kind of just need to be aware or know of this stuff. So it's a lot of stuff you're going in and looking up. What is this? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, and then the widgets. You might recognize these widgets. These are from. These are all the different things on the screen, and I tried to break them up as best I could. So you can kind of see how like working in this is a new feature. Create the model, create the provider, create the repository, then create the screen, and then break it down into these things. And the code just like, and this stuff here, there should be none of these magic hex codes. They should be all like talking to the theme. With Flutter, you can do everything you want here in the interface. You don't even need to like break it up. That's just something I kept adding in. But this, I didn't mean to do this. This is the code I had to write, which I should have abandoned for the canvas. And this canvas, where am I going now? Let me just open a new tab. This canvas I should have abandoned, but I had a vision. I wanted to see it. But what this is actually this. And then what you do if you draw on, it's the canvas behind to get these animations. But I wanted to actually animate this. I wanted this to be like Pokemon, the old Pokemon Game Boy games, and have like little stuff going on. And that's what we ended up with this like write it, load it, check it, write it, load it, check it. And yeah, this really drove me mad because I was constantly messing with this and in the different colors and changing it and stuff. Yeah, and this is just for the connector. So this is quite simply for her. This is just literally the brown lines. That's all that is. It's just the brown lines. And here you can see the trees are on top of the brown lines because it's supposed to be a path going through the forest. But here I couldn't get it to work because the path is on top of the trees. Okay. That's these and broken down and the screens and stuff. You can kind of see like the app is complicated now. I guess you could make it simpler, but if you're looking at like a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year project, and this is what I want to be getting to, like an app that works, it's not really sustainable. You kind of need to have a bigger and bigger team. Like you need to have somebody who knew this feature, that feature and stuff, and could really dig down. So the code bloating is becoming a real issue. And then when bugs get reported and I'm going through them, it's like you come in, you take a look at the provider, and then the model, and then repository, and then check the generated code, and then check the screen, and check the widget, and all of this, and trying to find the issue, and then hopefully you can recreate it. But most of the time you make a guess because you can't recreate the issue because someone says this didn't work here, and you kind of think, oh, maybe that was the audio system. So that's kind of the features, and then on top of that we have also the like the auth system, which I'm not going to show, and we have the services, which is maybe in core. So like for example, all of the audio stuff, rather than doing it for each feature, it's done once, and then you're using that service. You're just calling functions to it, and stats and stuff too. Readmes and stuff. So originally I kind of hoped that this could be made open source, but I mean, I don't think anybody, it's just would need a lot of stuff to sanitize it, to make it clean for security reasons. And then going back to what I showed you, all of those magic numbers, all that kind of stuff would need to be fixed. And then like for here, for example, I didn't comment this code, so I'd have to go in and comment every line of this. It's because this is, what is this? Multiple choice card. Yeah, I didn't comment it because I wrote it once, probably over a day or something, and then I haven't updated it since because it's been working since, I hope. But like all these magic numbers would need to be put into variables and stuff, and even then the code keeps bloating up, getting close to 100,000 lines of code, and then I kind of refactor it and make streamlines and stuff and bring it back down and it goes up again. So I've worked in code bases that are 10 years old and have hundreds of thousands of lines, and it eventually it gets to a point where the complexity outgrows the team's capacity, and then the team's capacity is spent simply maintaining it. And so for a project like this, you kind of want to make it more efficient. Okay, so that's why when talking about Madra Teanga and the fact that like we built the beta, all this kind of stuff, and it's in this state. Like the beta was to test ideas and to test it for people's interest, and then it grew, and the goal changed to being like, you know, like, oh, maybe it's in the store, maybe this will be it and stuff, and try and grow it, and maybe even thought about doing a traditional company like a startup and stuff, but could never quite get there. It kind of gets stuck. So it makes sense to switch to an open source model, open collective, non-profit model. And with that, it makes sense to take the learnings, because when I started building this, I was new to a professional, or like to kind of like large scale Flutter development. I'd done Haskell. It makes sense to start again, you know, from mistakes, and do it streamlined and stuff from the data. And that led to, I'll show you in the web first actually. People won't believe me when I say this, but sorry, this white paper is something I wrote last year or whatever with reflex FRP. It's like a mathematically defined way to get finite state machines, which are it's a mathematical concept, I suppose, in computer science, when you can have a system that has no broken states, that has everything defined. And I was designing a language around this in Haskell. I never really got beyond that, because, you know, I kind of want to be building apps, and to go in this route would just involve building a language. But I've always been kind of playing around with creating languages and doing it this way. And the idea is to do it in a way that you don't just get stuck constantly fixing the language, like building anything. So that brings me to closure dirt. So when November and the break came, I was thinking about what to do, and originally it was like, okay, just redo it in Flutter, just like take it out and start from scratch in public, and then write it and document every line and do it that way. But I was looking at other ways to do it, and I was thinking about other languages, and I couldn't really get away from Flutter. And I really wanted to get to a stage where you're kind of working in Irish, like, because it's spending so long doing it, and all day when I'm working in my like day job, or day jobs or contracts and stuff, I'm also writing code in English and stuff. So I was like, if there was a way at all that I could write this code syntax, even some of it in Irish, it would be really amazing. Something I really wanted, and this is something that I've tried myself a few different times. I mean, like, I think if you check here, I've got a few of them. I've got React, which was written. Oh, which one's this? I didn't know I did this. This is actually a different app. I have got two. This one here, I think. Yeah, 2020, so 6 years ago. I wrote this in, I think it's Golang. This one's Golang. I have one in C and I have one in Golang. Yeah, this is Go. This is based on a book. famous book on writing compilers and languages and stuff, and I did this 6 years ago. Never really went further because I created it, and you know, you have it, you compile it and stuff, and it's like there's no libraries, there's not much going on with it, you can't really use it. Well, you could, but it would just take a lot of work. So I did this one, and I did a Lisp too. So yeah, I was always kind of interested in making something like this, and then I mentioned before that even with mobile development, I thought about making my own framework or something, and then you go into it and you realize this is going to take decades, years to do this. And then I came across this. So I never kind of took Clojure seriously because I never quite liked Java. I always kind of thought Java as like a very enterprise thing, and not something wrong with that, but I always imagined enterprise software requires armies of developers. It's designed for like just high resource environments, and I've always found low resource environments more interesting, doing more or less. Whatever, if that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's just kind of how I viewed it. Like it's Java being like banks and places that have just so much manpower that they can kind of build stuff properly like this. So Clojure was always interesting to me because the community is really cool, and I like a lot of Chicky's kind of content, and I bought a book in it, but I never really went much further. Lisp is the second oldest language after 4chan, and I've always liked Lisps. Very like acquired taste, I suppose. And if you take object-oriented programming like C, C++, or C++ more than anything, and C is kind of in imperative, and if you take Haskell like a functional programming language, I always view Lisp as like nearly its own thing again, different family. But I've always liked them. Like one of the stories I always loved about Lisp is the guy who created Crash Bandicoot. So he wrote a lot of the tooling for that in Lisp, and he wrote it for the PlayStation. So they came into the studio, and because he did this, he built all this tooling in Lisp, they were able to get a lot more out of the hardware for the PlayStation than other companies. That's why Crash Bandicoot, made in the early 90s, so far ahead of its time. I always loved that story. But he came from MIT, and MIT famously taught Lisp as the main language through the 80s, and created some really phenomenal coders to the point that that course and the book SICP is really famous in coding. SICP, I think it is this one, and I've kind of been reading this on and off for years now, and I watched the video courses and stuff. If you're into coding, I would recommend diving on this, because the guy who does the course, I think it's Sussman, maybe it's Abelson. He like wears like a wizard costume into the lectures, and he calls coding magic, and it's just a really, really cool way of looking at it. So I've always liked that. And then I was watching a documentary on the creator of Lisp, McCarthy, and as it turns out, as it turns out, his father was Irish. He was, and his mother was, I think, Lithuanian, but his father was actually a labour organiser and interesting guy, and I thought that was an interesting connection. But I watched that documentary, and then I had a dream that night, and I woke up, and when I woke up, I was like, and I was thinking of making my own language and something, maybe Haskell or something that would compile to Flutter, and I was reluctant to do it because it'd be so much work. But I woke up and I was like, having never thought about Clojure for years, I was thinking, oh, maybe this could be done in Clojure. And I tried this, and it's exactly that. It's like, you only have an idea, and you're like, this could work, and you go through it, and you're like, it's a lot of work, and then it turns out two guys have already done this much better than I could have done it in this language. And this language is exactly that. It's written in Lisp, and it compiles directly to Flutter, so you get all of your iOS, Android, mobile devices, all that kind of stuff from one code base. and it's in Lisp, so it's really, really terse. So that brings us to Madra Teanga, the open source project, which is here, and this is built in this language and in Berla first. So all of the code for this, all you need to worry about is in here, and this is the main. I put in comments for people and stuff. This project actually I'm updating this weekend because I'm making it simpler again. But if I go into the UI and stuff, screens maybe. So you have here you include what you need, and then the comments kind of loaded out a bit, but you can kind of see how it's far more terse, and like it's far more like less bloat, and you're just saying exactly what you need and not much more. And there's features here that might not be obvious, but just features to stop it like going too far over this way, which Dart does a lot, and it gets really reduces the code. This might freak people out, but there's plugins and stuff you can use, and as you're writing it, it's kind of obvious. You kind of get to the end and you're just like this, right? Like just keep going until this one closes, and you get red if you get it wrong. So yeah, this, and then what's really cool about this is change branches, because it's just Lisp. And the thing about Lisp is if you're making a language, you make something called a abstract syntax tree, AST tree. So you take your code and you break it down into this abstract tree-like structure. Lisp is literally Lisp is just this tree. You're kind of just already there, like you're already building on the abstraction. So a lot of the meaning and the structure of the code, a lot of the meaning of the code isn't in the syntax, like in Dart, where you use, you know, a noun or a word for everything. Instead, with Clojure Dart, the Lisp, you're actually baking the structure of the app into baking the meaning from the structure of the code. The code itself, the structure of it actually carries meaning, which makes life a lot easier. Lisp is also like famously a very low syntax language, which for someone that kind of have, well, I don't know, I've never been formally tested, but like some kind of dyslexia or ADHD or something where my brain can like map everything out, and I can easily read code, and I can design stuff in my head easily and play around with it, but my brain sees syntax, and if it's like high noise, like if it's like a boilerplate or like not that relevant, my brain just refuses to process it unless I have to drill on it. I have to like force myself to memorize it. So to give an example, if I have to learn a phone number, I can't just look at it and memorize it. I have to like sit down for like an hour or maybe less and like think through it and keep repeating it and like come up with ways to remember it and stuff. Whatever. It's just an interesting way. But with that though, my brain seems quite capable of, like when I'm building apps, I can see it all in my head. I can see the different moving parts and stuff, and I can try stuff, and it can be quite nice. Like you can design stuff in your head before you have to write any code, which is very useful, as you can imagine. But yeah, that's why like Lisp was always been on my radar. So if you take a low syntax language and you have all this kind of stuff, one of the great things about Lisp is it has macros, which means you can change the language as you go. So like a lot of Lisp languages like Racket and stuff are like languages for creating languages, and that's really attractive, right? As a developer, if you can like make your tools as you go and take control of your language as you go, that's really cool. Make your own domain-specific languages. If you're working in a team, you can't do that. You need to make stuff that everybody can use. And you should always be aware, like, of not making too much stuff too specific to you. And if you're going to do it, you need to document it right, build it right. But it's still a really valuable tool. Like building a language around a problem is one of the best ways to solve it. So and then with this we have the option to quite simply with just one folder we can basically build our apps in Irish, Skelga. So some English words here, but like for the most part it's Irish, and the logic you're writing in is all in Irish, and it's totally extendable. And you start off with the tools that they give us in Clojure Dart, but create your own after that. And coding, one of the most beautiful things is to take something complicated, wrap it up, and put it behind a single word, and be able to use that anywhere you want. Like a black box, a self-contained thing, like a building block, and then you take these building blocks and build your stuff up, and that stops your code becoming 75,000 lines of bloat. A lot of these words are like just Google Translate as I'm typing. They can be updated later on, so some of them are quite long, and there's also probably better words to be used. Also, I haven't really put too much thought into like how to use Irish grammar, but I do think there could be some interesting ways to use the grammar better. I didn't spend too long on this at all. Like, it's literally just this folder, and these are quite verbose, but like you're just literally saying, like, see this one here, yeah, just call it that, and you see this one here, yeah, just call it that. And then with these there's like sub things, so you can add them in. So if you come across something here, you can just go and search in here for like its origin, and then you can go and check the documentation for this. To begin with, long term, I would really like if this was more streamlined. It would be really cool if each of these had like a big comment above it explaining everything you need to know, the documentation, and maybe if there was tooling where you could like see that here as you write. But it means you get to build on top of Flutter and Dart, so you get all of that engineering, and you get the Clojure Dart stuff, you get all of the Clojure and Dart stuff, and then with Clojure you get access to Java, and you get access to Python and C++. It's really, really cool. And then you can start there, you can start from there, and you don't need to rebuild or rewrite libraries. You can just build on top of it, and you can just change the words to Irish. And in the beginning, maybe it might just be word swaps, but longer term you can do more and more. And the beautiful thing about Clojure Dart is, I'm trying to find an example here. Maybe it's not in this. Let's go to this one. This one. This is what I'm looking for. An import like this. This is literally Dart code. You can just, anything that's in Dart, you can use here. If you can use it here, you can use it in Drill. So like you're not missing anything. You get everything. It's all available and stuff. Sionnach. So let me just show some examples, and then I'll probably call it. I don't know how long I've been talking for. This is the current Madra. So I'm going to run this on. What is the syntax? It's CLJ -m. Is it CLJD -m? No. Give me a second until I figure this out. three grep CLJ. Yeah, this one. Was it capital M? Okay, that's why I got it wrong. Oops. That's my video recording command. Let's type it out. CLJ. Should help me remember. Capital M. CLJD is the name of the while endings Flutter. And then if I did just this, it would build on my Android device. But I'm going to do -D for Chrome, just so that we can see it on the screen together. I want to open it out there. I want to show the REPL too. So this is starting a REPL, which means every time you make a change, it updates the app automatically, which is quite nice. Because each later on, I have to keep jumping around, even when I'm using the app. when you work on the Sionnach app and you make a change, you have to rebuild it, which takes a few seconds. Depending what you're doing, if you're doing the data, you need to go generate the code, which takes a few seconds, and then you have to go and build it, and then you have to go into the app and you have to navigate to where you see to check how it worked. So it takes a bit of time. I was I was getting worried that it wouldn't work. This is a really, really simple app. There's not much going on here at all. So the idea here is like you get prompted in English, and then Eve. Portia. I don't know why it's not picking up my keyboard automatically. And then at the end of it, so the idea is you go word by word, it gives you a direct prompt. You might have heard my voice in the background play, and then at the end of it you try and multiple choice. That was the idea. So this is the Madra Teanga app. It's pretty basic compared to the other apps. What's there now is not supposed to be a replacement, it's just setting up the basics. So I wonder, can I do that? No. I wanted to kind of show this updating in real time, but I need to open up another screen and it would get tight. But maybe I might just try that. Normally when I'm doing this, like, it's on a device, so it's a bit easier. Let's go Madra, oops, and then I'm gonna go into the source and close this and the title. What's on? Different. Oops. Oh, I must have cap locks on. Oh, I thought that was this one. It must be. That's funny. Clean up after ourselves. Which one would that be? Probably be. No, everything should be called Berla. Let's see. UI, screens, lessons. Probably here somewhere. Yeah, it's this one here. Yeah, you can see it up there. Changes in real time, which is really, really nice. So for words, maybe not that useful, but for stuff like font size or height or something like this, you can just replace this with like 80. You can kind of see in real time what's been changed and stuff. It doesn't do anything, which is quite common doing design work. Font size and actually, what is that even on this widget? I did this one. So this one here is this one here, and then we can see you can kind of like do stuff like this, which makes life a lot easier. This is one of my favorite features of it. So yeah, Sinead, that's it. I will stop this, and I'm going to just finish up by saying why this is cool. So what's the best way to do this? CD, I go to my codex, and I have here Flutter patterns. And this is basically, I was trying to distill down the core Flutter patterns and make it an example project. To kind of have people learn, but even for myself to drill on it, because I do that a lot to kind of memorize syntax. So what I mean by that is, this is just a basic app. You have like your main, your app. It doesn't even have persistent storage. basic router, go router, and then it's just a notes app. So this is the model, presentation, providers, repositories, core, and a bit of a theme up here. And what I mean by drilling is, for example, if I wanted to learn out this router pattern, I would just do like, I think it was, I haven't done it in Flutter for a while, but is it? Yeah, so you have this, and then word count and progress, and then I can just do this, and it'll just show me the hint. And normally what I do is I just come in and I just start typing. The limitation with this is you're using the existing file as the reference, so you kind of need to exactly match it, or else it'll show it as wrong, even if it's right in a different way. Flutter, what is this? This is the material, right? Material.dart. And then, oh yeah. So then when you get it right, so maybe it's the next one, and it shows you the progress and word count, all that kind of stuff. That's an aside. So, let me just exit out of this, and I don't know why my brain goes to sleep on camera. Now, so into lib, which is the main folder for Flutter projects, and clock dot. That's only 600 lines of code, which isn't too bad. It is missing a lot of features though. And before I leave here, I will just ls. Oh, I'll use Nvidia for this. So when you generate projects in Flutter, you get the Android code. It's all here. You get the iOS code, and you actually also get Linux and Windows if you want, which is really nice. And then you're just basically working in the lib folder. Yeah. So that app has no persistence. It has nothing else going on with it, and it's bare bones, and it's already 600 lines of code. So then what I did is I created, I think it's called, CD. Yeah, this is the closure dart patterns, so let me just triple check. So this is like the closure dart one using the state management library, Redash, I think, yeah, which uses a model similar to React, which is like basically is a very strict model, and it's DB, which is like your state, and then your effects, and then your events, and then your subscriptions, events and subscriptions. That's actually what's currently on the Madra app, which I'm going to remove because it's just unnecessarily complex. But you can see like this is much cleaner to write. Like there's a lot less going on here. Even in the UI, it's much cleaner, right? There's a lot more tears and stuff. Yeah. So, and then this compiles down into Dart. Though I don't know if you can use it that much, but it does compile down to Dart, so it is all the Dart code is here. And you get your Android, iOS, Windows is here, I think there's Mac OS and Linux and stuff. So if I go back and I go to source, and here if I do clock, I can't remember this command, it's something like -m maybe. Clock history, I need to give it the command to tell it to read the closure dart files. Yeah, fourth line. I wasn't going to remember that. So it's 100 lines of 110 lines of closure. I'm wondering, is this actually low, to be honest with you. And this isn't doing much, is it? This is just the landing page. Yeah, it's just the landing page. Or is it? Oh, this is missing persistence and themes and routing and all that kind of stuff. This is a very old. This is an older version. This is the new architecture, the one that I'm going to update Madra to use. And I'm just going to show it to you, and then I'm going to run it and show it to you too. So, with the other one using Redash, you had to do all kinds of stuff to shake the tree because the compiler was removing it, which is a pain. With this one, I remove the library. I don't use any dependencies here outside of Clojure Dart, and like you're pulling in the Dart packages. And instead, Clojure is all about using maps, which, as any developer knows, are very efficient. And it has a concept called atoms, which is like transactional memory, and it already has a subscription setup basically, because like you have watch, and then it's a functional language. Lisp is made up of functions, right? So it doesn't make sense, or you don't need to set up a whole event system with Redash and add complexity. You can just use the native features. That's what this is. So from the top, for imports, we have the main function. This here is a bit of boilerplate. You need to basically do this so it loads up properly. And then here we just load in, this is the state for the themes, this is the state for the modes. These get stored to local storage, to persistence, but that could just as easily be a server. And then we have a function that we call that passes to the router. With the Irish language tree, the idea would be we could just put all of this behind a single word, like start, right? So yeah, so then this one has a theme, and in the theme we have tokens. This is just a map, just defining the map, and you can use it anywhere. I put in these are like the native colors for Flutter to use, and then here I just have like a custom one. As an aside, you don't generally do all black in apps because it makes it the pixels smear. So if you have all black and the I think it's OLED especially, they're turned off, turning them on creates this smearing effect. So when you put the black, you want to do like a very dark grey to have them slightly on. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that. This is the state. It's just an atom, and then in Clojure, it's key value. So this is the key, and then the value is like these little tags, these little names, which is all we need, right? So then in the controller, I was drilling that earlier on. In the controller, we have here the theme, and so then down here we have like basically an async command to get the state if it exists on the local storage, or if it's this could be a server just as well. But then here's the actual logic. So it's just like, okay, like if this is light, sorry. This variable, we should put a question mark here to say that it's a boolean. This is not required by the compiler, it's just a convention. So if this mode is equal to light, then the result of that goes in here, so true or false, right? So then down here we have brightness. Okay, if this is true, then we do this one, otherwise do this one. So you can kind of see how simple, terse, and I really like the syntax. I think it's just really clean, and then it's the same the way the intro is. So if this, do this, otherwise do that. If this, do this, otherwise do that. I'll show you the feature now. Yeah, I think I'll just start it up. It's probably the best thing to do. Let's get rid of this, and then let's clear. Let's go into and then let's run the same command again. See the notes app. I hope I don't have anything crazy in the notes. let's see, I haven't actually run this on the web yet, so I'm wondering the local storage would just be into the browser. I used share package. I always use the while we, if anybody's noticed when I'm talking about stuff, it's like a safe bet. I used a package called persistent storage in Flutter, which is an example of how like using those packages saves you time, because it does the iOS, Android and web for you automatically. I'm going to move this over here. That's unfortunate. I want to get it to the left side. I don't know how to use my... That should work, yeah. I'm going to turn that debug banner off. So it's just like a little notes app. This is the theme system. So this is the if. So the state change. I click this. It calls the toggle function, and this is just like it's light to dark, dark to light. And then this then changes. So then this one here automatically updates. And that's why we see it changing like that in real time. And yeah, that's really, really clean, I think. And you see here, like where we put the watcher, this is the native closure feature that we use to watch this rather than subscription. And all the complexity, we just use this built-in function to check. And then every time we click this, it updates. I'm curious if the persistence will work. If I reload this, will it save? Yeah, it does. So then every time I'm clicking this, it's saving it to the local storage, and then it's loading it in every time I reload the page. So the way I did that here is I have services. This is kind of similar to the repository, and this is really simple. And see, we're using the package from Dart, raw Dart. We're using it, just pull it in as prefs. And we have two functions here. We use the native closure async function, so no dependencies here, and none of that complexity. I mean, 2 weeks ago I had to basically go and update every single package dependency for Sionnach, which took ages and broke everything. So not using dependencies is huge. And we have a set and a get value, and then set that here. So every time we click it, it just saves it, and every time we load the page, it gets it. And then this can be used. This is used for the theme, and it's used for the notes, and you can use it anywhere. And we could quite easily just put in here like a Firebase service that does the same thing. The routes are kind of the same thing. It's, you have state, history, and params, and then routes. There's only one route at the moment, and then this is like the core route. So yeah, and the notes. This is a CRUD app, so we have the controller. The controller, I just have state and controller to keep it simple. But you can see like it's very simple. Add note, update, delete note, load notes. These probably should be in state or maybe utility or something. This is what JSON annotation does in on Sionnach. But yeah, that's this one, and then on Sionnach. Forms and stuff. I mean, if you look at the Dart earlier on, saw what's going on here. Like we're pulling in this Dart package material, which is, you know, Google's material design. This could also be Cupertino from iOS, and then from there we're just taking this widget, the text button, and then we're saying for the text button, it has a child that's just a text saying cancel, and then we just put a little message here saying, okay, if this button here is pressed, then do this function, this anonymous function, and use the navigator, and then just pop it off the navigator, which is when navigation works. When you go somewhere, it just adds it on top, and then pop just pulls it off, right? So yeah, so Sinead, I mean, I'm not sure if anybody's going to watch this. I've been talking for a while, a lot to get through. I'm not sure how to communicate. I think the best way would be just to build stuff that's genuinely quite cool, and write up documentation and stuff. But I hope you can see when I get to this stage, you can just open up your computer. It's only like a few hundred lines of code to get what takes maybe a few thousand in Dart. It could be in Irish, it could be in English, and you can start typing and build out your app in real time and watch it build up on your screen. To finish, I will just use the clock command here. Oh, I did it too high. I need to go into source. No. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, okay, my bad. So it's just over 300 lines of code. Oh no, so that's text. It's 261. So 261 lines of code to get this app. With its routing, setup, its persistence, its full CRUD functionality and stuff. I think that's really good. I've never seen any framework that could do it that much with that little amount of code. And then too, if you look into the code itself, like it's like a lot of the stuff is just these imports, right? So importing the different parts, and from doing it, you kind of just know what to pull in. You're pulling in the stage, you're pulling in the controller, or whatever. And a lot of this stuff could be put behind single lines of code, right? Some of it's very declarative, but like this is your database here, and you can see where it does get very bloated or complicated is you're using the Flutter interface, the API and stuff, so using these things. So yeah, Sinead, I'm going to stop talking now. I'm just going to post this up raw, I think. I'll call it Madra Teanga Dev Log 1. I'll probably keep doing this. I'm not sure if anybody's going to watch them or not, but maybe each time I do them I might get a bit better at presenting stuff and showing progress and stuff. And yeah, if you got to the end, middle focus, agus slán that. I'm going to figure out how to stop the video. Okay.